And we are back with another episode of the InvestorGuysPodcast.com. And I've got Bill Barnett here. I'm Kevin Mills. I hope all of you are doing well, and I hope you guys missed us immensely. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on YouTube. By all means, like us, share us, start a watch party, start a revolution.
Yeah.
Investor Guys
Right.
Revolution. Bill, how are you doing?
Cam, I'm doing terrific, brother. Merry Christmas to you, in case I don't get to talk to you the next couple of days. And to everybody that's out there in InvestorGuysPodcast.com land, Merry Christmas to you guys as well. What a great day. Today is the day before Christmas Eve.
The day before the day before Christmas.
Do what now?
The day before Christmas.
The day before the day before. So, congrats to everybody for being here. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us. And hey, are we getting into wrapping up the inspection, or what are we going to do today?
We are, but you know what? Before we do that, while we're talking, I want to bring up something that you said the other day, and it was when we were off camera. And you said, since we're coming up on the end of the year, that is, you said 2021. You said, I've been thinking, and 2021 is going to be my best year in real estate ever. And when you said that, I said, congratulations, because it sounded to me like you had done the numbers and you had figured it out. And based upon what you had going on, your 2021 was going to be your best year ever. But you went on to clarify, and you said, I have already decided I am going to make 2021 my best year ever.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I mean, that's a great way to think. And before we get started on the show, I want to make a mental note here, or put it in your head also, for our New Year's show, right after we do this one, okay? Let's talk about resolutions. Let's talk about positive mindset and deciding that we're going to do better. All of us, every single one of us, we're going to do better in 2021 because we have decided that's what we're going to do. So I wanted to thank you for that, because I actually put a bug in my ear too.
You bet.
So,
Well, and yeah, it is just a decision.
Really,
That's one of the things that, having worked with many of the great thinkers and speaking minds in sales training and stuff over the past 40, 50 years, good gosh, that's hard to say, but almost 50 years, it all starts with the decision. And Tony Robbins is one of my favorites, and Tony says, can you change your life in an instant? Well, of course you can. It's the instant that you make that decision. And so that's going to be a fun show. We hope you will come back and join us for that. But you bet.
Maybe our last week of the month show. We may actually have to do shows on that. So, but let's jump into our last show on inspecting a property before you buy it. We had covered already roof and everything else.
Yep.
And real quick before we move inside, this is something you see a lot in Texas, and I wanted to bring it up while we're still kind of outside. Corner pop. And a lot of the houses in Texas and other areas, they're built out of brick. And what you'll see a lot of times is cracking on the corner, and it's called corner pop. And it's nothing to worry about. It's not structural. It's something that you can fix up. A lot of times it goes through the bricks, and just let it deal with the bricks, just fix it up in the ground. That is typically a moisture issue. That's from not putting the right type of vapor barrier between the wall on the other side of the brick. But corner pop is not a structural issue. If you guys need to know what corner pop is, just do a quick Google search on it.
And it's just literally on the actual corner of the foundation, a chunk of concrete breaking off. And people see that aren't in the business or uneducated in this part of the business. They see it and freak out. Oh my gosh, I've got foundation problems. No, that you may have, but that having that does not mean that you have foundation problems. It is something very common, very easy to fix. It's not a structural issue. That's the big thing. It's not a structural issue.
So let's move into the house. I know that you checked the floors. Tell us about that.
Yeah, when I go in, I'm looking at the condition of the floors. We've already gone through. We look at the ceilings. Well, the other thing we want to look at, I want to look at the floors. I want to see what's going on. Are they nice and level? I want to make sure that I don't have any drop in a particular room, which would be equating to foundation problems in most cases. Now, when we're dealing in those older homes, those homes that have pier and beam foundations on them, you're going to have that. You can't. My belief is you cannot keep a pier and beam house level all the time. It's just too easy to move. So I'm looking for that based on what kind of foundation I have. Is my floor nice and level? I want to hear if I've got squeaks. You'll hear a lot of times, especially when you've got carpet, you'll be walking and you'll hear a floor squeak, especially second story, much more so than first, but you'll hear it in both. Well, if it is a floor that is not a hardwood floor that I'm going to refinish and keep, that's going to be my number one thing. If I can find that, I want to redo those hardwoods and keep them. But if it's not, if it's carpet or if it's tile and I'm replacing that tile and pulling it up and I've got squeaking, then I want to go while I've got the flooring off, where I've got exposed subfloor, and I want to walk the floor to find where those squeaks are. And then I'm just going to take a 3-inch wood screw nail and I'm going to screw that where that squeak is. I'm going to screw it down because all it is movement. So I'm going to screw it down to make sure that I've eliminated the squeaks. Other than that, I'm looking for hardwoods. We buy, as you do, you buy more old houses than I do, or you buy older houses than I do as well. And so I love going into those houses built in the 60s and prior, and they have hardwoods in them. I have a 53 build right now that had maple wood floors in it, and man, did they turn out gorgeous. They looked terrible. In fact, the kitchen area had linoleum put on top of it. And so we pulled it up. I was like, they're probably not likely that they would have had this great maple wood under. We pulled the linoleum up, and oh my gosh, there it was. The guys that redo my floors came out and said, yeah, because they glue stuff all over, looked terrible. And he goes, yeah, we're going to sand all these. There was enough finish left on the wood to be able to sand it good and to put a refinish on it, and they just turned out absolutely fabulous. Not cheap. I spent about $3 a foot to get it done right, but that is significantly better than spending $3 a foot on a replacement floor that may not be near the quality and certainly doesn't look as good. Doesn't have that charm.
Yeah, $3 a foot on carpet or tile. Now we're up on a break, but we'll come back. I'm going to give you a trick on hardwood floors that you're going to love.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich?, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich?, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
And we're back from our break, and just before we went on break, Bill was talking about hardwood floors, and he was talking about squeaks. And one of the things that I do with the hardwood floors in the buildings that I get is before we sand the floors, I will put talcum powder all over all the floors. And I'll let people just walk on the talcum powder. That works it in between the floorboards. And that actually acts as a lubricant so that the boards aren't squeaking between each other. Then when they sand everything, I have them sand it with the talcum powder on there. It makes it more of a dusty mess, but it's a mess anyway, so it doesn't matter. Have them sand it with the talcum powder in there, and those vibrations work it down into the floorboards as well. Then when they clean it all up, it's down between the floorboards where it's going to stay, and it acts as little tiny ball bearings because it's gypsum, and it makes the floor a lot quieter. Now, a lot of times on older houses, it's not just the floor that's creaking, it's the joists that creak as well, but that'll quiet a lot of your floor squeak down, is by putting the talcum powder in there. So just an old school fix for squeaky floors.
I love it. That's why you want to be listening to Investor Guys podcast. So you got, every time you join us, you're getting 60 plus years of investing experience all over the country, rehabs, flips, rental properties, Section 8 property, multifamily properties, commercial properties, raw land. You're getting it. A lot of years of doing this. Hopefully, God will bless us with a lot more years of being able to do it. That's why you want to be here. That is a great tip. I'm
And something else I wanted to bring up too, because you talked about pier and beam. Okay. Now, if you have a pier and beam house that has settling, and oftentimes you do, that is actually an easier fix than a poured slab. A pier and beam is much more easily leveled out than a poured slab. So if you have a poured slab that has settling, it's going to cost you a lot more money than to level out a pier and beam. I have a construction company, so we've actually done that because a lot of houses in California actually sit on a pier and beam, a crawl space type of situation. We've had to level out a lot of them. It's not a big deal. It's just a matter of putting jacks in the right places and carefully lifting it up evenly, and then putting new supports underneath them.
So those hydraulic jacks that we use on foundation and stuff?
We use hydraulic jacks, but we use the ones that you actually pump by hand because you can set how much you're actually doing it. So the big giant, 100-ton, I mean, they're like this big around, you got to have a couple guys carry them out to the corner, but you can just sit there and pump. I mean, you can lift a giant building.
A house. You can lift a
house, literally, yeah. 100 tons is actually more than what you need. You could probably do it with a 20-ton. A lot of times we will hold up roofs because a lot of times what will happen is for some reason walls will sag and you'll have a roof that is sagging in a corner, but your foundation isn't. So we'll actually jack up roofs and hold them with like a 20-ton while we put new steel in there and everything else. One of the things that I check is moisture. And I actually have 2 moisture meters that I use all the time. There's different types, but the ones I use, there's one that's a surface meter, and it looks almost like a stud finder. And you can put it up against any surface, and it will tell you if there's what percentage of moisture is in it. Pretty much any surface is going to have a little bit of moisture. Even if it's just a little bit cool, it's going to have moisture. But it'll tell you what percentage is in there. I will use it on floors a lot of times, especially where you have drainage issues and you have a slab foundation, because I want to know if there's water trapped under that floor. The other thing is, the other one looks like almost like a stun gun. It has 2 little points on it, and you can literally put it in through the paint on the drywall, and it just makes 2 tiny little pinpricks that nobody can see. Now, it's not unusual when you go through a property that is for sale to see fresh paint on walls, because they're trying to make it look good for people who want to buy the house. But that fresh paint can also hide water damage and other things that may be behind that wall. So if you have an idea that there might be a moisture issue, if it's just an area that's prone to moisture areas, or the house is built in a way that you know there's probably going to be take those moisture meters with you and check it out. It's just a couple of unintrusive holes that you can check. In California, I don't buy in California because the margins aren't there, but we've done a lot of repairs on properties for the construction company that I have. They do lots of fill because there's lots of hills and lots of mountains. When they do the fill, if they don't do it correctly, it doesn't drain well. So you literally have water whenever you have a rainy season, which happens in the wintertime in California. You've got water that just comes down on all these different stair steps of fill.
Yeah.
and it doesn't drain correctly because it has been compacted so hard because they don't want it to move anywhere. So a lot of times you'll get moisture issues if you're 2, 3, 4 levels down from a higher point, and I want to check that when it's raining. Even if it's a house that I bought already, I want to check it. But again, I don't buy in California, but something to think about if you're buying in an area like that. What is the drainage like if you're looking at fill? Because fill is hard, compacted, basically waste dirt, and it doesn't drain very well. And a lot of people don't do it the correct way. So those are things that I check as well.
Yeah, I want to throw one little thing out before we go to break on the using those hydraulic jacks. I was doing a little bit higher end house a few years ago and had the solid brick mailbox, and it had tilted. And so I was talking to one of my contractors. I'm like, all right, that's a pain in the tush. Can you fix that? And he goes, yeah, I can do that. He said, we'll do it just like we do foundations. We'll dig a hole under it and put a jack in there and level it and go from there. So I come back by later on that afternoon, and he literally had taken a nylon strap, wrapped it around the mailbox, tied it to the bumper of his truck, pulled the mailbox straight, dug a hole, and put a small hydraulic jack under there. Jack was brand new, about $40, and had set a couple of bricks down in the bottom of it, set the jack on top of that, got the mailbox just the way he wanted it. And when I pulled up, he goes, oh, this is great. You'll get to see us finish this out. And I was like, man, it looks fabulous. And then I walk around the backside, see the hole, see the jack down in there. And I'm like, all right, so what are we doing here? He goes, I'm filling up with Sakrete. And I'm like, so what are you doing with the jack? He goes, I'm filling it up with Sakrete. I'm leaving the jack in there, and it's $40. And I'm like, got it. And, so we buried that jack in concrete and had a nice solid brick stone mailbox that are very heavy. So all kind of little tips you can do when you start thinking about it that are good, solid fixes that aren't very expensive.
Yeah. And really, when you think about it, it's a void that causes that sag. It's a void that causes that settling. We've even gone with giant concrete slabs for sidewalks and driveways. If they're not cracked, we will literally lift them up, fill underneath of it, and set it back down so that you don't have 2-inch cracks and 3-inch cracks, or just between the expansion joints on concrete. There's no need to jackhammer all of that out and re-pour it. If you can lift it up and you can level it out and make it look good, that's usually easier and less expensive than having to replace it. Now we're up on another long break here.
Same thing with the decks on your pools. If you got a pool property and the deck has dropped, if it's still solid, just lift the deck back up.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
segment on inspecting properties before you purchase them. What else do you look for in a house when you buy it? And you know what? Here's one caveat, not really a caveat, but a point I want to make. If something doesn't look right when you walk into a house, when you're looking at it from the outside, even if it's something that Bill and I did cover, if something doesn't seem right, investigate it. Figure out why that is. If something looks suspicious, there's like a weird, plate on something, check it out. Ask. I will see plywood screwed to walls sometimes, and I wonder why is that. Do a little bit of investigation, and it turns out that there's pipes back there that they fixed the wrong way. And they obviously didn't even do the right repair because they put construction plywood over top of drywall instead of doing it back in. So if something looks out of place, if something doesn't look right, if something catches your eye and it just says, hey, something's not kosher about that, check it out. It's not a reason not to buy the property. Just understand what you're getting into and look out for it. And that's really what investors like Bill and I do. We walk in and different things catch our eye because we've been doing this for so long. Okay. But you'll get to that point where you'll be like, literally, when you're from the street, you'll say that roof is going to need to be replaced. You don't have to sit there and walk on it or look at it or anything else. You can just tell that roof is going to need to be replaced. And it just gets to that point where it's ingrained in your DNA. And it's actually kind of cool. But anything
that happens from doing a lot of deals and looking at a lot of property, making a lot of offers and doing a lot of deals. And so that's an excellent point. And you just, when I'm generally overall looking at a property, I'm not looking for, the flooring needs to be replaced. I go in assuming that it does. What I'm looking for, is there anything extraordinarily bad about the property, or if there's anything extraordinarily good about it, that I may actually take a picture of that with my phone. Most of the time, I'll have people come in when I'm teaching them and they'll have their phone out and they start clicking away when we're going through a house. I'm like, what are you doing? This is normal stuff. I don't have to worry about it needs painting. I'm going to paint everything. I don't have to worry about, we need a light fixture in that room because the likelihood is I'm replacing all the light fixtures anyway. And so I'm looking for the things that stand out. And again, they stand out really bad. If it's just, like Kevin and I have both seen houses where you're pretty confident that somebody rebuilt a car engine in the living room because of oil and stuff all over the carpet. I'm not taking a picture of that. I know I'm replacing the flooring, but I wanted to look at something that could possibly be structural or something that you just look at and go, wow, nobody's going to want to buy that. I did a house last year that previous owner had, I'm sure, went through a ton of trouble to do this, but they had built a huge entertainment center onto the wall, and they had that real heavy stucco kind of finish on the inside wall, is that heavy drag texture that has a very Hispanic feel to it, Mexican feel to it. And they had taken that same texture and gone all over this homemade built-in entertainment center, and it was just horrific. And I said, I got to take a picture of that not because I need to remind myself, just because it was so funny looking. But you're going to see stuff like that from time to time, and make it easy on yourself. I'm looking for the things that I really need to be focused on that might be expensive. One of the houses that I'm doing right now had a koi pond in the house. They had taken part of the carpeting out of a room and had chiseled down into the foundation and put a koi pond inside. I was like, yeah, well, that's got to go. So be aware of
all kinds of crazy things. I've seen that as well. People who literally put water features inside of their house when they definitely did not belong. You're going to see crazy things. And that's actually one of the fun aspects of our job, is seeing what goes through the minds of other people, when it comes to decorating their house or choosing paint colors or choosing appliances. Just it's entertaining, it's educational, It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. I love looking at houses.
Yep.
Just a little bit of a sideline. I love looking at abandoned properties also. If I see a house or a building or something like that on the side of the road that's abandoned and I think I can look at it without getting in trouble, I'll pull off to the side and park someplace inconspicuous and I'll go exploring. I'm even in a number of different groups on Facebook. It's like called Abandoned World and Abandoned Buildings and Abandoned Castles. To me, it's a window into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a window into history, because you have to remember that a lot of these, every single house was designed by somebody. Sometimes they're all cookie cutter and they look the same, but they were designed by somebody. And I will notice when I look at different properties in the same area, like in Cleveland, for example, you'll see features that are unique in different houses, but you'll know that that came from the same builder or the same designer, because it's unique to that builder or that designer or something they like to add in. And it's really cool. It makes you a more interesting person because it gives you more facets. It gives you more information. But I love the history. I love the background. I love the things that every single person has put into a property from the time it was built to the time we've gotten it.
And sometimes you're going to find stuff that end up being included in the property. I bought 2 different houses that had cars in the garages that I got to keep because of it being included in the property. They were just like, no, done. I had a 64 Cadillac Eldorado included in one, and a lowrider included in one. It happened to be a house that ended up being foreclosed on. The guy ended up going to prison for drug dealing, and his lowrider car was in the garage. And the house had been empty and it went unsold for a little over a year. And so, and it was empty, wouldn't go through it all, and then opened the garage and oh my gosh, here's this car up on blocks. But it had all the little details to it. So fun stuff, you know.
When you end up with a situation like that, and Bill can tell you this from experience, and I've had this happen with tenants actually. If they don't claim the vehicle for a tenant situation, their situation is included in the sale. But there's paperwork that you can fill out with your State Department of Motor Vehicles for that exact purpose. It's called an abandoned vehicle on your property. And if it's worth less than a certain amount, then they just automatically issue you a title. If it's worth more than a certain amount, then there's a different process that they go through, and it usually just means more taxes that they're going to charge to you. But eventually, you'll get a title for that vehicle, whether it's a motorcycle. I've had motorcycles, I've had boats, I've had jet skis, I've had all kinds of stuff left on properties. And in order to get rid of it, you don't want to take a perfectly good item and get rid of it. That's a sin, honestly. You want to do something with it, either keep it yourself or sell it. But in order to do that, you have to have a title so that you can get registration for it, so that it makes it a viable thing to transfer to somebody else.
That Cadillac looked like it had about 10 years worth of dust on it. And open it up, of course, keys were in it, nothing remotely looked like cranking. I literally went down to an auto parts store, bought a battery, went back, and doggone, in about 10 minutes it cranked. Yeah, I was like, wow.
I love the old Eldorados. I had a 76 Eldorado. I didn't get it in the building I actually purchased it, but a 76 Eldorado convertible that I used to drive back and forth when I lived in California to Vegas. That was my Vegas car for a long time. So just take the top off, cruise up to Vegas, cruise up and down the strip with the top off. I love that car. It was longer than a Suburban at the time.
Well, the 76 was the bicentennial Eldorado.
That was a couple years after. I think the 73 was the one they used for the Indianapolis pace car.
Yeah, and that 76 supposedly was going to be the last convertible that GM made, and because of the way things were at that time, gas and all kind of stuff. But of course,
white on white, with a white top, white interior. I swore I never saw that car, and I had a guy hit me downtown one day, not hit me literally, but just literally walk up to me and offer me a price that I couldn't refuse in cash. I'm like, done. So, but yeah, one of the
fun stuff.
All right. So
that may not sound like it has anything to do with real estate, but I'm telling you, if you're out there,
it's all sidelines. Honestly, if it was not for real estate, Bill and I would not have the colorful lives that we have.
Yeah.
Real estate has allowed us to pretty much just do crazy things that nobody else would do and have crazy lives and experiences that other people don't have.
Fun stuff.
And I wouldn't give it up for anything. Bill, happy holidays. I'll talk to you before the holidays.
And to you, brother, as well.
And
Happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody that's watching us on the Investor Guides podcast, and happy Hanukkah.
Yes, we're just finishing up with Hanukkah, actually, but happy Hanukkah. And we will see you guys on the other side of the holidays. We have a special holiday greeting for you guys on Christmas Day, and then we will see you on the other side just before New Year's. Bill, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.